1440p, 240 Hz. That has been my goal as of late. But first, this video is officially sponsored by Microsoft Edge Game Assist. Microsoft Edge Game Assist could quite possibly be the perfect companion for your gaming adventures. If you're already on a Windows PC, then you have access to Game Assist right now. All you have to do is hit the Windows key plus G and it pulls up the game bar menu, like so. And look at this, I have Game Assist already right here. Got my friends list on the Xbox Social, I've got capture options, audio, performance. But now this Game Assist window is content aware. So whatever game I play will get populated with tips and tricks in the Game Assist window right here. So let's try this out. I'm gonna pull up Avowed, which is a Game Pass game that launched this year. If I go into the game bar, you will see that Game Assist automatically populates with Avowed tips and tricks. So we have an IGN walkthrough right here. We have Achievement Hunter, we got Polygon, we got YouTube videos being pulled up. We have trending tips and tricks for Avowed. It is content aware. So this lighthouse right here, I'm willing to bet there's secrets, right? Let's go into Game Assist and let's say Avowed lighthouse secret. Hidden treasure in a lighthouse. Let's click on this. So this particular YouTube video is probably going to walk up the lighthouse. What I can do right now is I can shrink it down, make it roughly this size right here. I'm gonna move it off to the corner and then I'm gonna hit play and I'm also gonna pin it. And now I can play and watch this video at the same time. So this particular YouTuber just went and saw this. I'm like, okay, they're probably gonna wanna go up to the lighthouse. They're saying go over to the ladder over here. This is obviously really convenient because you can pin any information that you could possibly be looking for, whether it's a video or an article or some sort of document, Reddit post or anything like that. And there it is. There's some stuff up here. Ooh, this is probably treasure map? Yeah. Let's pause this real quick. So we're gonna grab our treasure map right here. So we're in the same spot as this video. And there's treasure over here as well. Grab this stuff. Boots. So it's looking like it wants us to jump. We're jumping. It's showing to go get a backpack that's in this little cave. Ooh, and it's got a little piece of information right here. I'm gonna pause this. So this particular guide is saying where to find it in this bridge. We're gonna find a tree root over there, I think. So here's the tree root, and it wants us to go underneath. Off to the right, that's what it was, okay. And then boom, secret, secret. Obviously we don't need this video anymore, so we can just click the pin. Make sure we get our unique right here, that was the whole point. The wind and wave, yes. So as you can see with Microsoft Edge Game Assist inside the game bar, it's incredibly easy to just pin information off to the side, watch a video, and not have to tab out of your game or anything like that. A lot of people are rocking like a 32-inch monitor and it looks amazing, but sometimes you need to like refer to a document back and forth while you're checking out some sort of secret. Now with just a flick into game bar, you are good to go. You got Game Assist. Also, you might be worried about performance, right? Because if it's a browser inside of game bar, is this going to bring your PC to a halt? And the good news is the team at Microsoft Edge has focused on efficiency and performance and startup speed. So when the tabs are not being used, they are put to sleep. So yeah, Microsoft Edge Game Assist. I think a lot of people are gonna like this feature. And if you already got a Windows computer, you already have access to Game Bar and thus Game Assist. Try Microsoft Edge Game Assist now. Unlock a better way to play. So I have been on a bit of an upgrade kick this year. Ever since I started streaming again, I've been slowly upgrading pieces here and there. And I've decided to make the switch up to 1440p 240 Hertz. So I started with 4K 60 because I was using that monitor for color grading and video editing and that type of stuff. And I started playing Marvel Rivals on PC specifically and realized that I wanted the mouse and keyboard delicious frame experience again. So I swapped back to my 1080p monitor that was 240 Hertz. It was like one of the first 240 Hertz models that came out back 5-6 years ago or something like that. And you know, it's shown its age, obviously, right? It's 1080p, it's a VA panel, so this is relatively low contrast. And also had an RTX 4060 in the system at the time, which was specifically for encoding initially, but it turned out to be a decent 1080p card as well. Fast forward to Doom the Dark Ages, and that card did technically struggle a bit to maintain some decent frame rates. I think it might have been more like driver errors, just game engine bugs in general. But prior to that, I had actually scooped a 5070 Ti that I was saving for a brand new build this summer. But Doom Dark Ages made me pop this open early. So I ended up putting that 5070 Ti into this computer right here, which is an AMD 3900X that I built 5-6 years ago as well. One thing that I had to do was swap out my power supply because that was a 650 watt power supply that I put in there back in the day because I was just considering this computer to be a streaming computer. So I bought a 1000 watt power supply, which I do plan on using for this future build as well. So that power supply has a bit more headroom for maybe overclocking or maybe even like a 6080 in the future or something like that. I figure since I'm doing a new build, I might as well plan a little bit extra in the future. So 5070 Ti in place in the computer at the moment. The last piece was 1440p 240 hertz. And so I did some research, and what I found is I didn't want to spend a ton of money on an OLED. So most of those OLED options are basically out of the picture. And I also wanted to stick with 27 inches as well, because the 32 inch, when it was on here, was a little on the big side. And I want to be like proper distance, proper ergonomics, that type of thing for when I'm doing mouse and keyboard gaming. So my goal was a 27 inch monitor, 1440p, and 240 hertz specifically. And I went with the LG Ultra. Let me look at it real quick. Specifically, the LG Ultragear 27GR83Q-B. It was on sale for 320 bucks, so this was kind of like a happy medium ground for me, because if I jumped up to an OLED, it was going to be at least 40 to 50% more budget that would have to be spent on there. And I do know that there's some new OLEDs that are coming out basically in a couple months. There's a Gigabyte one that's WOLED that I think is targeted at 500 bucks, 27 inch, 1440p, 240 hertz, and all that stuff. So I could have waited, that is for sure, but I did some thinking about it, and I realized that I've been happy with the IPS panels, and that 4K monitor that I have, that's actually off to the side right here, also looks fantastic. And I was like, I think I'm okay with IPS. And I think I like the extra comfort of knowing that it's not going to get burned in really fast because it's an OLED, even though maybe that is not really a problem nowadays, especially with the current generation. Still though, for the price, it kind of bugs me to think like if I were to spend $600-700 bucks on an OLED and get some sort of burn in down the road, you know, I want these monitors to last like 5-6 years at least without having any kind of concerns or worries about it. So I realized that the IPS panel was probably just fine for me. So I went that direction. It looks considerably better than my previous 1080p 240Hz monitor, and it's pretty close in quality to the BenQ 4K that I've got. Another added benefit also is that I've been streaming to YouTube, and the resolution has been getting upscaled from 1080p to 1440p for YouTube, because you get a better encoder when you stream 1440p or higher to YouTube as opposed to 1080p. Although that might be changing here in the future. They have been adjusting the coders, so that might be outdated info at this point. But obviously the picture quality does look better being pure 1440p as opposed to going 1080p to 1440p. So content creation wise, a bit of a bump, you know, higher quality right there. But yeah, I'm definitely happy with the monitor. Obviously the 5070 Ti has been great. I haven't overclocked it yet, but pretty much all the games I've thrown at it have been really good. There has been a few surprises, like Stalker 2 is surprisingly difficult on the frames, so probably have to dial stuff back, or it might be the CPU that's holding things back. And that is technically the next phase of upgrades. That's probably going to be happening here pretty soon. I know I did like a tour video last month, and this is the problem with tour videos. It's like things are always changing and in flux. That's what happens when you like technology and you constantly have gear going in and out of the office. And again, since I built this 5-6 years ago, that's kind of one of those things where the motherboard at that point may or may not have problems. You know, it's like, it's probably not going to have problems, but it's at that age where it's technically in that window now where components could fail or they could last 20 years. You just don't know. So with the new build, I am targeting AM5. I think I'm going to go with the 7800 X3D. I am trying to be somewhat budget minded on this. That's why I went with a relatively mid-range monitor. That's still decent, you know? The 5070 Ti is technically expensive, but it's obviously not a 5090 or even a 5080 at this point. So it's a bit of a splurge, but it's still within the specs of being like medium to high grade PC components. So I think a 7800 X3D AM5 build, probably just going to do 32 gigs of RAM. I know a lot of people are talking about how 64 gigs is like the new target for gaming, but in reality, most games coming out right now probably are not going to be taking advantage of 64 gigs unless Witcher 4 needs it, because it might. My God. I also think I'm going to go with the Be Quiet light-based 600 case. That does look pretty freaking cool. And I'm going to go with the white build on that again. This was a white case build, and I'm going to stick with that. But yeah, that's the plans. That's my journey with the 1440p 240 hertz upgrade so far. This year, again, I started doing single PC streaming, and even on the 3900X, it's been working for the most part. So it's kind of changed my perspective on like single PC setups and what's possible, because it does seem like you can basically just stream to Twitch, YouTube, and make a high quality recording local on basically a RTX 4000 or 5000 series card and be able to play the game at the same time on the computer. So aside from like just straight up crashes, I think it's like the way to go for the future, single PC streaming. All right, but that is the video. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Also, huge shout out to Microsoft Edge Game Assist for sponsoring this video. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I will probably be doing that build video pretty soon. So stay tuned, stay subbed if you want to check out that content. I'll see you next time for another video. Peace.